The U.S. is now in a full-blown trade war with its neighbors and with China. Starting at midnight last night, the White House imposed a 25% tariff or tax on all products coming across the border from Mexico and Canada. Also, a new 10% tariff on all goods from China. Canada and China immediately retaliated. Canada announced it will put in place its own 25% tariff on about $155 billion of American products that come across the border. And the Premier of Ontario, which is Canada's largest province, Doug Ford, said he would cut off energy supplies that flow into the eastern United States. Quote, "If they want to try to annihilate Ontario, I will do everything, including cut off their energy, with a smile on my face. And I'm encouraging every other province to do the same," Ford said. China responded by implementing a 15% tariff targeting U.S. farmers. The trade tax will apply to chicken, corn, wheat, and cotton imports from the U.S. Also, a 10% tariff on sorghum, soybeans, pork, beef, aquatic products, fruits, vegetable, and dairy. Beijing also put 15 U.S. companies on an export control list. Chinese Foreign Ministry said in a statement that it will not succumb to pressure from Washington. Quote, "I want to reiterate that the Chinese people have never feared evil or ghosts, nor have we ever bowed to hegemony or bullying. Pressure, coercion, and threats are not the right ways to engage with China. Trying to exert maximum pressure on China is a miscalculation and a mistake." No word yet on Mexico's response, where anti-Trump sentiments have surged, and the country's left-wing president, Claudia Sheinbaum, is extremely popular. She's been working to expand Mexico's social safety net, which will help the country's working class weather some of the damage of this trade war. It's the highly unionized American auto industry that's likely to feel the brunt of these tariffs, as their production lines stretch across the US, Canada, and Mexico. Some car components cross the borders at least 6 times before a car is built. Now, each time, those parts will be taxed, increasing the price of cars for consumers. Japanese and Korean car makers will likely benefit the most from this. Energy prices will also go up as the U.S. imports crude oil, gas, petroleum, and coal from both Canada and Mexico. Also, American consumers buy a ton of electronics and household goods like clothing, machinery, and furniture from China. All those items will now see price increases. And most importantly, food costs will go up, betraying a key campaign promise from Trump. The U.S. working class has already been struggling at the grocery store due to inflation caused by corporate profiteering and price gouging. It's only going to get worse, as more than 60% of vegetables and more than 40% of fruits and nuts consumed in the States comes from Mexico. Also, a lot of beer comes from Mexico, and various meat products come from Canada. Trump even seemed to acknowledge looming food price hikes with this post on his social media site. Quote, "To the great farmers of the United States, get ready to start making a lot of agricultural product to be sold inside of the United States. Tariffs will go on external product on April 2nd. Have fun. Yeah, have fun in the short term trying to get your products sold overseas now that China is taxing the hell out of you. Also, in the long term, if U.S. farmers are going to need to, quote, start making a lot of agricultural products, you got to wonder who exactly is going to be hired to work the fields, as Trump is deporting a big chunk of the farm workforce. More than 12% of agricultural workers are undocumented." Now, if used correctly, targeted tariffs could be an effective tool to boost certain U.S. industries. But that's not what's happening here. Instead, Trump's tariff strategy is just going to hurt people across the entirety of the continent, with working class people feeling most of the pain due to higher prices. An analysis by the Tax Policy Center found that 25% tariffs on Mexico and China will reduce the after-tax income on the average American consumer by 1%. So if you make $50,000 a year, you're going to be $500 poorer. And that doesn't even account for the tariffs on China, and Trump's plans for even more tariffs in the coming weeks and months. This is going to cripple an already weak U.S. economy. The Atlanta Fed is already projecting a massive economic contraction in the first quarter of the year. The White House claims the tariffs are in response to these countries not doing enough to stop fentanyl from crossing the border. But that's bogus, since barely any fentanyl comes across the Canadian border. Starting a trade war will actually reduce cooperation between the US, Mexico, and China when it comes to fentanyl interdiction. So the problem will likely get worse. Also, if the US goes into an economic recession, that increases social ills like drug overdoses. What's really driving this is Trump's imperial ambitions. Calculation the White House is making is that the pain for US workers will be worth it to weaken Canada and Mexico's economies and make them more vulnerable to the US. When it comes to Canada, Trump has basically admitted this strategy out loud multiple times, referring to Canada as the 51st state in the context of weakening their economy through tariffs. And his Homeland Security Secretary, Kristi Noem, recently pissed off a bunch of Canadians while she took a tour of the Haskell Free Library and Opera House, which straddles the US and Canada border in Stansted, Quebec, and Derby Line, Vermont. There's an actual line on the floor in the building that marks the border, and according to the Boston Globe, Noem, at least 3 times during her visit, jumped across the line while saying on the American side, USA #1, and on the Canadian side, quote, the 51st state. You can just picture her doing this childish bullshit. Anyway, a lot of people are going to get hurt from this trade war, all because Trump has deluded himself into thinking he will be the president who conquers Canada. We are still living in the dumbest possible timeline. Hey, thanks for watching. Hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any of our new videos. Also, if you want to see Means Morning News in its complete form, not just the clips we post here, head on over to Means TV and get access to all our new episodes and our entire backlog, plus tons of other great movies and original TV shows.